Okay, welcome back. Uh, so picking up from where we left off, we have some issues here where this object now has translate and in x and in z values. We want those again, like I said, to be zeroed out. Okay, so in order to do that, select your object, highlight these, right click, freeze, translate. Now they're all set to zero values. Okay, we're good. Okay. Uh, the next thing to do is to go ahead and UV this cube so we can take it into Substance and apply some textures to it. Okay, so from here, we want to go here where it says Workspace. You're in Maya Classic currently. We want to go ahead to where it says UV Editing. Okay, there we go. Now here is where it gets a little tricky. Okay, so if you click on this little icon here, it's a checker map. This lets you see the UVs on your cube. Now, for a square, this is your typical UV layout, okay, which is correct. It's not not incorrect. It's just not what we need for this cube. So, for example, this is your UV square space, this whole cube. So it goes from a value of 0, it goes from a value of 0 to 1, okay? Same thing on the x value. So 0 to 1. Notice how that is your UV space. If you want to make it a little bit darker, you can click on this little picture here. It lets you see it a little bit better. That's always what I do. And you can change your value here. This little slider lets you change from dark to white. I always leave it in a little darker just because it's easier for me to not only read here in the UV editor, but also here. It lets me see the display a little bit better. Now, like I said, this is your UV space. Okay, you never want your UVs, for example, you never want your UVs to expand more than that UV space. You never want it like this. Okay? You always want it confined to that one square. Okay? So Control Z and we're back. Okay? See how it's in here? But you see all this negative space, all this dead space right here, all this negative space. You always want to maximize your UVs, your UV squares, okay? You always want to maximize on them. In order to do that, in this particular asset that we're creating, we're going to go ahead and make this into a wooden crate. Okay. Now, since it's just a basic tutorial and it's a basic wooden crate, it's okay for our UVs to overlap. What I mean by that is I want whatever I do to this side to match on this side. Okay. And this side, on all of them. Okay. Depend again, it all varies on projects depending on what you're working on. But in order for you to start, I think something simple to UV would be this particular asset. Whatever you do to one side, it'll be done to all of them. Okay? That's not always going to be the case, but you work on project to project and you develop new ideas and new techniques. So we want this to be as maxed out in resolution as we can get it. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to hit face. Okay? In order to do that, select your object. There's your object selected. And we're going to go ahead, right click, hit face. Now you're in face mode, okay? So select this face. We're going to go up here to where it says UV. And we're going to go down here to where it says automatic, okay? Just click and look at the difference in resolution. Look at the difference between those squares. Each one represents resolution squares, okay? That's pretty much what they are. And look at this one, okay? See the difference? It's a huge difference. Now, one more thing about UVs. You always want to make sure that what you're UVing is set properly. And what I mean by that, again, it changes from project to project depending on what you're working on and what kind of uh, effects you want, what kind of end result you want. Okay, for this particular project, we want all our UVs to end up looking exactly like this. That's a U1V11001 correctly. Okay, you can read this. It's not upside down. Okay, so we're gonna go to the next square, next face, click UV, automatic. Perfect. This one came out wrong. See? See what I mean? One is set properly, one is not. It's still the same amount of resolution. It's just reversed. It's upside down. I'll go back and fix this later. Okay, for now, I'm gonna go ahead and apply the same thing to all faces in my geo. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and click there, UV, automatic. That one came out right. Click UV, automatic. That one came out correct. This one's already done. Okay, now for the top and bottom, doesn't really matter how they come out. So click automatic. There you go. Click and UV automatic. Okay. So the only one that I'm concerned about is this one here. This one came up upside down. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that one. I'm going to come over here to my UV editor and I'm going to right click and I'm going to select UV shell. This lets me select the shell that's incorrect. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and select it and I'm going to go over here where it says transform. Now scroll a little bit down, see where it says rotate. You can rotate your UV. So first of all, I want to make sure that I have the correct one selected. So I'm going to go ahead and again select my geometry. I'm going to go ahead and go to UV shell. This allows me to select that particular UV shell. So click. See how no other UV shell selected? And I'm going to rotate it. So click once, click again, and there you go. Now it's set correctly. See? Now you didn't notice much of a change here, but I'll show you what's really going on. So I'm gonna go back. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and select it here. I'm going to the shortcut key for rotate is E. Okay, so that's why this little icon comes out. The widget comes out. Look what happens. If I'm actually moving this. If I set it this way, look what happens to the UV space in the perspective. If you notice, the squares are now sideways. See? We don't want that. So I'm gonna go ahead and click undo, and I'm back to where I started. See? So now again, I'm just verifying, making sure that they're all set correctly, and then we're good to go. Okay, I resetted my widget to W to move to the move tool. And we're all set. Okay, so we're pretty much done UVing a simple square. Okay, so now all the UVs are overlapping each other. So for example, I'm gonna go here, right click, UV shell, select one, and if I drag it out, you'll notice there's still another one here. Okay, that's because they're all overlapping. Okay, I'm gonna hit Control Z. Now the reason that I have them overlapping is again, because what I want to do to one, I want it to reflect on all sides. Okay, since it's a simple crate, I want to save the trouble of actually texturing every single side myself. Okay, so we're done here. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my workspace, back to Maya Classic. Right click, select object mode, select my object, and as you can see, we actually have history here. Okay, this is all the history from your UV movements. Okay, everything you did to the UV. Okay, so we don't want any history here. So again, to erase the history, you go Alt Shift D, and your and your geometry history disappears. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial. I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the next video.